Did you ever notice that you're living by a script and you didn't even write it? Welcome back to Inner Child Month for Masks Off, Inner Freedom for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. So last week I started to talk about the inner child and how these patterns began for us. And I just also want to say it has been 6 years to this month that I started the podcast Masks Off. And if you have been with me all along, thank you so much for being here and staying loyal and tuning in time and time again. And if you're new to this podcast, I welcome you and hope that you enjoy the content of this episode as much as I have enjoyed making all of these episodes for 6 years in almost, I think, 330 episodes with over 100 guests. And it could not be possible without you tuning in and listening week after week. So thank you so much.
Hey, and welcome to Masks Off Inner Freedom for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. This is a podcast for those who are tired of holding it all together. I'm Kim Gross, your host, and if you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but still feel anxious, disconnected, or quietly burned out, you're in the right place. Here we talk about the patterns you don't even realize you're living inside of: self-abandonment, overfunctioning, chasing approval, and mistaking productivity for your worth, and more. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before you learned to perform, perfect, and please to belong. Each week, we'll slow things down. We'll unpack the nervous system, the inner critic, and the subtle ways that you learned to disconnect from your true self so you can stop living from pressure and start living from presence. This is your space to take the masks off. So let's begin.
Okay, so last week we started to talk about the inner child. And this week we're going to go deeper and I'm going to talk about the rules that you learned or the scripts that you adhere to and play out. And you're not even sometimes aware that you're following these scripts, but they become the foundation of your life, of your story. So 6 years ago, when I started Masks Off, I didn't realize myself that I was living by these scripts. And I never really questioned them. And if I did know that I was playing out certain roles or I was adhering to these scripts, I wasn't aware of them to the extent that I am today. Because it really just felt like it was who I was. It was my personality. I had been playing out these scripts for so long that it just felt like it was who I was. But the truth of the matter is that we do adhere to scripts, and a lot of them are actually approval scripts. What do I mean by approval scripts? What are they? These are basically a set of unconscious rules that you learned about how to be loved, how to feel safe, and how to feel accepted. Some examples would be good. Don't upset anyone. Don't rock the boat, whatever you do. Don't be too much for others to handle. Be easygoing, be cooperative, go with the flow, blend in, and maybe get it right. You need to get it right because failure is not an option here. So these are just some examples of scripts that we learned early on. And these scripts were not necessarily spoken or overtly taught to us, but we felt it. We felt that this is how we had to be. So for me, a childhood memory when I realized that being good meant approval was really any time that I got straight A's, anytime that I did well in sports, which was often, and I got awards and all types of accolades. I can remember when I was in the eighth grade that I cleaned house on many different achievements and awards. I got one for science, I got one for English, I got the one for being an athlete, I got one for being overall student. I really just had so many ribbons and awards, and all of that equated to I'm a good girl. I'm following the script. I'm doing what is expected of me in order to receive approval from others and validation from others. And I don't remember any adult in my life telling me, Kim, you better get straight A's or else. Because there are many of you who heard that message. You have to get straight A's. You have to perform. This is what I expect of you. I didn't hear those words. I learned it. I learned the rule that if I gain the approval of others, then I'm good, or vice versa. If I'm being good, I will gain the approval of other ones. And no one explicitly said that to me, nor have you probably explicitly heard that phrase. You just learned it. The way that these scripts impact the way that we behave and the way it shows up in present day is whenever you or I say yes, when we actually mean no. We know it's a no. Our body is telling us, no, this isn't right for me at this time, in this moment, ever, but we say yes anyway. It can show up by overthinking conversations. You might rehearse a conversation ahead of time, or you might have had a conversation and it didn't go as well as you had planned. And then you start overthinking it, over analyzing if you said or did anything wrong. And you might replay some of the interactions as well. You may feel responsible for other people's emotions. You might feel like it's your job to micromanage the emotional well being of others, especially those that are close to you. You probably avoid conflict with a 10-foot pole. It's not something you are super comfortable with, so you avoid it. And consequently, you struggle to set boundaries. Bringing this into the inner controller, which I bring up week after week because I really want you to get a sense and a feel for what your inner controller feels like, what she does, how does she show up, what does she say. And so your inner controller is the one in this instance who is enforcing these scripts that you unconsciously learn at a very young age that are now playing out into present day. The inner controller, your inner controller, is the one enforcing these scripts. And it sounds like this: just stay agreeable. Don't mess this up. Whatever you don't mess up. And it may sound like make sure that everyone is okay. Your inner controller's going haywire. But here's the thing: your inner controller is not trying to hurt you by doing all of this. Your inner controller actually thinks that she is still trying to protect you from losing connection with others. She's trying to make sure that you feel a sense of belonging. And she doesn't care if you abandon yourself, your true self. It's more important to stay attached to others and to stay safe. So I will share with you something that's been coming up for me recently, which is that my family, we're gathering this week in New York for my daughter's graduation. She is graduating with her master's, and I'm so proud of her. She's worked really hard to earn this master's degree, and she's coming in from California, and then my husband and my son and I are flew up from Florida, and we're all gathering in New York for her graduation ceremony in Syracuse. And I can sense, without going into all the details, just to kind of keep the story short, I can see where I am feeling this pressure to make sure that everyone gets along and plays nice. I'm feeling like I have to make sure that everyone is happy. So we have to drive 2 hours to get to the ceremony and 2 hours back, and who's driving with who, and what time are we leaving, and this one doesn't want to go or doesn't want to drive, and that might upset this one. So I can just see in my mind where I am trying to find a way to manage everybody's emotions so that everyone is happy in this situation. And this is something I've done for years with my family of origin, plus my kids and husband, where, especially around the holiday times, I'm trying to make sure that everyone is getting what they want. And that's just crazy, right?
Before we keep going, I want to take a moment to share something really close to my heart. If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, wow, this feels familiar, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the constant self pressure, I wrote a book just for you. It's called Free to Be: A Pathway to Inner Liberation, and it's part memoir, part healing guide. I share my own journey of learning how to stop living in victimhood, take off the masks, and come home to myself, but not by fixing myself, by understanding my patterns with compassion. This isn't a book full of fluff or quick fixes. It's honest, it's grounding, and it's for anyone who's ready to live with more peace and freedom. You can find Free to Be on Amazon. And if the book resonates with you, I would be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave a review. Even a few words can really help others to find it.
That's just crazy making, because number one, it's not my job. It is not my responsibility to make sure that they all are happy or to help them manage their emotions. If someone is feeling disappointed. That's not for me to fix it. It's not for me to micromanage that. I can be supportive and say, hey, I'm here for you. I understand that you feel disappointed, or I understand that you're feeling pressure to have to do this and you don't want to do this. So I can be supportive, I can attune, I can acknowledge what they might be feeling or going through, but it's not my job to manage it for them or to make it better or to make it go away, which is what I often try to do. And so that's part of my people pleasing. That's part of the script that I learned from a very young age, that it was my responsibility to make sure that my mom was happy at all times. That was, again, not a spoken script, but it's one that I adhered to. It's one that I adopted for some reason, that it was my job. Even as a 6, 7, 8-year-old little girl, it was my job to make sure that my mom was happy. And that's just crazy. That's just an undue pressure, responsibility that no child should ever have. And yet I carried it. And I continue to see it show up in my life today. However, now that I've been doing the inner work and I have been healing for a while, I'm clearly aware of the pattern, and I see the pattern coming up. And then I'm able to, when it does come up, I am able to pause and say, okay, how do I want to approach this? How do I want to do this differently? So these scripts feel like your identity or my identity. They feel like safety, they feel like survival, right? So going back to my story, if I think that I can manage, if my inner controller feels she can manage everybody's emotions and make everyone feel happy, then she'll feel safe. Or then she will be worthy or accepted or feel connected because everybody's all love, rainbows, and sunshine, right? So that's how, or rather, that is why it feels so hard to change these scripts, because they feel like they are part of our identity. Think we think it makes us feel safe, and it's part of our survival. So if we try to change the scripts, it can feel like we might risk rejection, disapproval, or even disconnection. And that's what the inner controller is trying to avoid. She is trying to protect you from rejection, disapproval, or disconnection. And that's why she sticks to these scripts like it's life or death. And it really, to the inner controller, does feel like it is life or death. So the key is this, that you're not just necessarily changing behavior, you're actually challenging what once kept you safe. And that's why it's, again, so hard. So, this is something that I have definitely been unhooking from over the last 6 years since I started Masks Off in May of 2020. And I've been unhooking from the pattern one layer at a time. I make a little bit of headway. I'm able to show up differently. And then I might take 2 steps back and I go back to an old pattern and okay, there's that pattern again. And then I can show up differently, take a step forward, and then take a step backwards. But that's the process. So that is the healing process. If you feel like you are going forward and back and you feel frustrated because you feel like you're not getting anywhere, I promise you that is the process. So it doesn't happen overnight. I can assure you that the healing does not happen overnight. It takes time and it's one step at a time. But it does help the more you become aware of when the pattern shows up. It does allow you to be able to move forward in a more timely manner. So, how do you start rewriting the script so that you are not continuing to adhere to or stick to those old patterns? Let's just keep this simple. Step one is, as I've been saying, and I always say, it's awareness. You cannot change that which you are unaware of or that which you are willing to accept or admit to. So you can just say to yourself, what rule, what conditioning am I following right now? You just ask yourself, and that helps you to become aware. Step two, you can question it, challenge it. Is this actually true? Or is it just familiar? When you're following the rule, is it true that you have to follow the rule, that you must follow this rule, or are you doing it because it feels familiar? And then step three is just making a small shift. I'm not suggesting or inviting you to any type of big change or disrupting your life or blowing your life up in any way, shape, or form. It's about making small shifts. So you can just say no, maybe one time, and then notice how did that feel to set a boundary and say no, especially to someone who you care deeply about, someone who is super important to you. Saying no might be really hard. For me, saying no to my kids is the hardest for me to say no to them. And you can also just take a pause before responding, take a deep breath, and you can let someone or allow someone to be uncomfortable. Allow them to sit in their discomfort, which is what I am going to have to practice this weekend through this whole celebration, is just allowing whoever it is, and I don't know which one it'll be, but someone at some point will feel uncomfortable. And rather than me adhering to the rules or to the script and swooping in even, and trying to fix it for that person, can I just allow that person to be uncomfortable? So again, you don't have to rewrite the scripts all at once. This isn't about waving a magic wand and all of a sudden you have a new story. Although I used to wish it could happen that way, I can promise you it does not. But you can just start to notice, and that will start to create more space, and that will allow things to start to unwind and unravel. So, coming back to the inner child, which is what this whole month is about anyway, is that the key point to understand is that that version of you learned that these rules were here for a reason. Let me say that again. Your inner child, that version of you, learned that these rules, these conditionings, these patterns were there for a reason. And the reasons could be that she wanted connection, she wanted safety, and she wanted love. She just wanted to be loved. And that's why she followed the rules. So there's absolutely and absolutely nothing wrong with you for following them in the first place, or even if you continue to follow the rules. If you're having a hard time breaking away from the scripts, I promise you there's nothing wrong with you. This is a part of you that just wanted to be loved. And again, coming full circle, 6 years ago when I started this podcast in May of 2020, I didn't even fully realize to the extent that I was living by these scripts. I just knew that something was off and I wanted to take off my masks and I wanted to be more of my true self. And in order for me or you to be your true self, we have to learn how to take our masks off, unhook from these patterns, unhook from the rules, unhook from these scripts so that we can be our true self, our true, healed, whole self. And now I'm able to see my patterns. I can see when my mask is on. And that is what allows me to create the change because I can see them. And then I can do the work, the inner work, the healing work in order to heal in order to give my inner child what she needed in the first place. So, in the next episode, we'll start to talk more about reparenting and how you can create more safety for this part of you that feels so afraid.
As we wrap up today's episode, I just want to say thank you for being here and for taking this time for yourself. If this episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast or leave a review. Even a quick star rating helps more people find this space and reminds the algorithms that these conversations matter. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, a takeaway, or something that came up while you were listening, leave a comment or send it in. Let's keep the conversation going. This podcast isn't meant to be a one-way street. It's meant to feel like a community. If you want to learn more about me, my work, or the ways we can go deeper together, you can visit my website. All the details are there. Until next time, take a breath, take the mask off, and be gentle with yourself. I'll see you soon.